Want to tell us some more stories?
Yes, indeed. I'll tell you a little bit about the cedro. The cedro is the Italian word for the citron, or of course, or for the etrog. And as Carl was saying, there are only two places in the world where the etrogim grow wild and beautifully without major cultivation, and that is in Israel and in Calabria. And not too far away from Serrastretta, down the mountain a piece where it's a bit warmer, the etrogim, the cedro, grow wild. And on occasion, when we have a bar or bat mitzvah ceremony here in our synagogue, baby naming, a Jewish festival of some kind, or a Shabbat, people will show up at the door, and it's customary, of course, to bring something, to not come empty-handed. And one time, an elderly woman, as sweet as she could be, Maria Concetta, she brought a basket full of cedro, of etrogim, and she said, "These are for you. This is Jewish." And that's all she knew. That's all she knew. She knew that it was Jewish, and she knew that as the only Jew in town, as Carl said, and of course the only rabbi in the whole region of Calabria, which is the geographical size of the state of Connecticut, she knew that she was bringing something that Jewish people appreciated, and of course I did. What is done with the etrogim here in Calabria is most of the time people make marmalade with it, and our marmalade is a little different from what Americans are used to eating because it has very little sugar, and the marmalade is often tart, and of course the etrog is very tart. But we did a wonderful Sukkot service here with many people from the town, and we were holding the etrog in our hands and making the blessings north, south, east, west, up and down. And when our citizens here, our friends and our neighbors, saw how the etrog is used for blessings and how it is symbolic of the heart, that we must look for injustice in the world. We must see it, speak about it, but all of our work must be done with an open heart and a good heart. It's made the etrog very popular here on these mountains now. It's giving it a special place of prominence.
So, Rabbi, you share some other stories. I know people come around and now that they know you're the rabbi in town, and they've had these stories or family types of remembrances, they come around to you to share with you, I'm Jewish, or maybe I'm Jewish, or I think somebody was Jewish. Tell us a couple of things that have happened to you in the years you've been there.
Yes, indeed. And as the years go on, and as I've become better and better known, and as people trust me more and more with their stories, the number of stories that are brought literally to my door the number has just grown over the years. And I find these stories, they touch my heart, and I feel that I am that listening to these stories is giving a repository, sacred space to things that people have carried in their hearts, carried among themselves and their own families for years, often wondering what it meant and what it means to them should they find out they're Jewish. In one of our earlier episodes, we talked about deathbed confessions and about how it is not uncommon here for someone to be on the verge of passing away and gathering the family and saying, don't put a crucifix in my hand, do not put a prayer card, do not wrap my hand in rosary beads, do not call a priest, bury me by sundown of the next day, wrapping my body only in a sheet. And the stunned family is saying, but grandmama, nonna, perché? Why? Because we were once Jewish. And without being able to say more on many occasions, the person passes away. And what happens is people do come to my door with this information, wondering what this means to them and their families. A young boy came to me last year. It was not as a result of a deathbed confession, but it did have to do with his grandfather, and his grandfather getting on in years and wanting to be sure that something from the family was not given away and was preserved. I want to hold up for you right now the yod, the pointer that we use when we read from the Torah. And it's shaped, of course, like a little hand with a pointer finger, and often it's made of silver, as this one is, and it's a rather long one. And rather than using our fingertips to touch the words of the Torah, we use the pointer, mainly because the words in Hebrew are calligraphy. There are Torahs from 1783, and to touch it would be to eventually smudge the letters. Well, a young man came to my door one time, and he said, I'd like to talk to you. My grandfather passed away. Actually, it was several years before. And he told me that if I ever knew of a rabbi or a Jew, I should come and talk to them and show you what my grandfather had in his desk drawer. And so I invited the young man in. He was 19 years old, and his name was, interestingly enough, Shabbatai. His name was named Sabbath, because he was born on a Saturday, on a Shabbat. His name was Shabbatai. And he took out of his pocket a hand-carved wooden, carved from the chestnut trees that grow here, and the chestnut wood with the beams in my ceiling are all chestnut, and carved the long shaft of the yod, and also the hand with the pointed finger. He said, my grandfather said that I should take it to someone Jewish if I ever meet a rabbi, because you'll know what it is. Fortunately, I live above the synagogue that we've organized, so I said, well, rather than explain it to you, I'm going to show you. So I took him to the synagogue. We took the Torah out of the Aron Kodesh, out of the Ark. We unrolled it, and I showed him how we read from scroll by using the yod. And I said, this was very precious to your grandfather, because your grandfather wanted you to know that your family was once Jewish. And he said, this is why my grandfather never wanted me to lose this. He comes occasionally to our services. We don't see him often, but when he comes, he brings the yod. And if it happens to be a Shabbat, I use it. I use the yod rather than the one that I just showed you. I use the yod so that he can see how it is used and how sacred it is. This young man, Shabbatai, is very conflicted, because he grew up in a very observant Catholic family. He's never felt an affinity for the church, and the men in his family have not. So that could be the Jewish line in the family. And he's not quite sure what to do or what he wants to do or how he wants to do it. So I say to him, we're open and welcoming to Jews of all backgrounds. And just like the yod is an extended hand, we extend a hand of welcome to everyone so that they can slowly discover and, if they choose, embrace their roots.